This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. In our studios downtown Columbus, I'm Ty Higgins. Driver error can be a critical factor of large truck accidents. In fact, motor vehicle crashes rank number one in the U.S. for causes of work-related deaths. That's why Nationwide has developed an innovative program designed to help navigate drivers through 5 key principles of road safety. Drive the 5 is the name of this new program, designed to help drivers involved in the agriculture, food, and fuel sectors stay safe on the road. Laramie Sandquist joins us. He's with Nationwide Agribusiness, their risk management leader. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here in person.
Why is driver and vehicle safety so important?
You know, I think we all see what's out there on the roadways every day, Ty, and today no different, right? I was out there today at an intersection just here in town, and I saw someone distracted on their phone, texting while they were in the intersection, and someone actually had to honk at them. I'm sure most folks are aware of stuff like that. But I think we've seen since the pandemic that the results overall from our perspective at Nationwide as far as losses are concerned have increased. We're seeing more deaths on the roadways. We've seen 17,000 or so deaths over the last decade on the roadways. Then the number one cause, you saw that of injuries or deaths in the workplace. And so we are all seeing it, and we're just trying to find out what's actually causing these. And this is why we put this whole program in place, because as we saw these losses coming through and we were trying to trend them, we found out that there were 5 main factors that were causing these. And so we want to get awareness out there and make sure that people are paying attention behind the wheel.
We'll talk about those factors in a bit, but what are some of the reasons we're seeing the uptick in driver error on America's roadways?
Yeah, you see, on a daily basis, we're just busy, right? You and I are busy with our work, we're busy with our family life, and we're busy with our media presence and things like that. But I think a lot of it is just us having a lot more on our mind. But you talk to people, 8 and 10 people out there say that people are just driving faster, and they're driving more reckless on the roadways today. And whether that's because we're more busy, whether it's because we got more mind traffic going on, or whether it's because there's just more drivers out there than there were previously. We're trying to get to the bottom of that, but also we know behaviors are probably the biggest piece of that. So we're trying to get to that behavioral side.
Let's talk about the Drive the 5 program. Tell us more about it and some of the goals you have in mind.
Yeah, when you think about Drive, we were trying to categorize these causes or these root causes of crashes into a category that people can really latch onto and think about. We talk about distracted driving, number one, right? We know that there's a myriad of number of distractions out there. A lot of people think it's just cell phones, but there's a lot of distractions. We have claims with people that are watching Netflix on their phone. We have claims where people are grabbing for a soda that fell into the passenger seat. We have claims where people are changing the stereo dial and things like that. But I call it just the distracted mind. So there's a lot more distractions out there in our minds and just in the cabs or in the environment that we're driving in to start with. So that's number one, the D. So we wanted to get that out there and make people aware of that. And then we also know that fatigue plays a huge role in some incidents that are out there on the roadways. So we know rest is a big component of that fatigue factor. So we said, hey, let's focus some time and energy on the rest side of it, specifically in the ag space, because we know there are various times of the year where folks are running hard. And sometimes they are a little rest deprived, and so we want to make sure that they're taking time for themselves, for their own health and safety behind the wheel. We also know impairments are a big piece of that. So we said, okay, how can we factor that in? We've got 24 states now that allow for legalized recreational marijuana across the country. We also know that over time, alcohol has played a big factor in this. But we also know that there are other impairments that folks have between prescription drugs and things like that are out there. So we just want people to be aware that as these things are going on, that impairment is a big piece of that as well. We also see that vehicle maintenance is a huge deal. And so we want to make sure that people are focusing on the maintenance of those vehicles, not only to make sure they're running correctly, but also to make sure that they can prove after the fact that, hey, that vehicle was maintained. I have the records that show that it had all the working lights. We did our trip inspection. We did our post-trip inspection. And so a lot of that comes into play after a claim where folks are trying to figure out what actually happened or what was the root cause of that crash. But then the biggest part is probably this last one that we call just environmentally aware, of knowing where you are and what you're doing and who's out there with you. And so whether you're driving in the rural communities, some folks think the rural communities are safer than the urban communities, but if you look at the statistics, it's pretty much a wash. There's incidents in rural communities just as much as there's incidents in urban communities. The rural roads are no safer than the interstates that are out there today. So we all just need to be aware of what where we're driving, when we're driving, and these factors we found are mainly the root causes of the majority of our crashes that are happening today.
So those five principles spell out DRIVE. And, you and I have talked quite a bit on the podcast, and it would be very easy for you to come on here and just sell insurance. We talk so much about risk management and giving that to your policyholders and our members, these great programs and products that Nationwide has developed. This is added on to a suite of other very important initiatives that you guys have created over the past 10 years.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we try to focus on these behavioral traits, these areas that we know maybe aren't causing like huge dollar losses all the time, but they are impacting these communities. They are impacting these rural communities. I used an example in a podcast a couple weeks ago where there was a girl who was about to graduate in a rural community just 3 weeks before walking across the stage to graduate was killed in a crash where distraction was one of the leading causes of this. And it's those stories that you hear. The Grain Bin Safety Week, we talk a lot about that. Are a lot of those incidents happening? Luckily, no, because we get an awareness out there, but one's enough, right? Right now there's somewhere upwards of 40,000 people dying on our roadways every year. And that may not seem like a lot because of all the roadway traffic that's out there, but to that community, if one person is involved in that, that is a big deal. And it impacts so much throughout the families, throughout the communities, throughout the overall awareness campaign. So we try to stay at the forefront of these, and you can tell with me, this is just a passion for me. This is like, driving to me is so fundamental, and everyone thinks they're a good driver. And I'll ask people, I'll say, hey, how many out there in the audience, if I'm giving a presentation, how many of you are a bad driver? And no one will raise their hand. Of course, I get some chuckles and things like that. But then I'll ask, has anyone seen a bad driver on the road in the last 24 hours?
Everyone.
And everyone raises their hand. So it's one of those areas where I think we can all say that we're all pretty good drivers most of the time, but we can also probably admit that we can all probably get better. And if we focus on these, we keep this at the forefront, and we're making sure that our professional drivers are aware of these areas that we know are causing the most incidents. Hopefully we'll keep drivers safe on the roadway, protect this industry, and just keep America running.
Yeah, really just keep it top of mind with this Drive the 5 and these principles. If someone's listening and wants to find out more, how can they do so?
Yeah, you can go to nationwide.com. We got Drive the 5 materials splashed on nationwide.com, so we have Insight Online that we have our Drive the 5 the materials as well. I just actually Googled the other day, Drive the 5, and it pops up through a Google search, so it goes straight to the Nationwide website. So we do have a good job of that. Also, just talk to your local agent or any Nationwide rep that you have out there. So appreciate the opportunity.
Great to see you in person. You wore the suit to match the backdrop, so you knew what you were doing when you were coming in.
I didn't even know that, but it looks good. I like it.
Laramie Sandquist, risk management leader for Nationwide Agribusiness, our guest here in Columbus at our studios on the podcast. Always great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Mike Boyert from Boyert's Greenhouse and Farm. My wife and I live in Medina County. Right here at Boyert's, we have 43 employees. 14 of them are full-time employees. Keeping good quality help has been one of our biggest concerns in our industry today. Through the health benefits plan, which was one of the issues we were trying to find a solution for, to help provide health coverage for these families, these young families in our industry, so we can keep them. You can't ask for a better program than the Ohio Farm Bureau Health Benefits Plan when it comes to the health benefits for each and every individual. It makes me go to bed at night feeling that I have a greater advantage than the guy down the road because I'm providing these tools to these young folks, and I know they're going to stay.
Learn more about the Ohio Farm Bureau Health Benefits Plan at ofbhealthbenefitsplan.org.
Find out how Nationwide Agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Changes to the Ohio livestock exhibition rules sought after by livestock exhibitors and advocated for by Ohio Farm Bureau recently made to the sections of the Ohio Revised Code. We'll talk about those changes with Roger High. He joins us here in the studio in Columbus. He's Director of Livestock Policy with Ohio Farm Bureau. Roger, always great to see you.
Good to see you too.
So this was quite a process. We'll talk about the process itself in a bit, but it all started with you being on a committee to help to update, to clarify, simplify, and reduce rules for livestock exhibitions. Why did the rules that were already in the books need to be looked at and need to be improved?
Well, as you mentioned, I sit on the Ohio Department of Agriculture's Ohio Advisory Committee on Livestock Exhibitions, representing the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation, all of the commodity groups, and several other organizations around the state representing fairs and that type of thing. We meet every year after the fair, after each of the fair seasons, which is, of course, after the Fairfield County Fair. And it was time for the 5-year review of the rules. And so we felt like, as a committee, we felt like it was time in these 5-year reviews to really take a deep dive into the rules and see how we could make improvements, how we could reduce them, and how we could improve them. And so I was appointed to a subcommittee which met and really went through the rules and looked at definitions and really took a deep dive into that. We met twice, probably 12 hours of meetings over at ODA to really get into these rules and make sure that they were good and sound, not only in science, but also would benefit our livestock exhibitors as well as our members across the state.
Yeah, our members talked about it at our annual meeting last year and set policy to kind of guide us in this direction. How did that process work, and what were some of the things that our members asked for utilized in changing these rules?
Well, I think the big thing that we was running into was just was tolerance levels on approved drugs. Tolerance levels that the rest of the livestock industry were going by through the Food and Drug Administration and through FAIR-Ad. And so we really looked into those to see if we couldn't make it more acceptable for our livestock exhibitors to be able to follow those or be under those same FDA and FAIR-Ad tolerance levels. For years, it's been zero tolerance. Any approved drug that's been found in a livestock exhibition animal, those families, those animals, those kids are penalized for that. Where livestock that goes to the markets every day, if they're below that FDA or FAIR-Ad tolerance, they can go right into the food chain. And so we really looked into that, looked at this as an opportunity for us to really get our exhibitions on the same guidelines as the rest of the livestock industry, rather than heavy penalties, because we were still at that zero tolerance level.
Another example of the grassroots efforts our members make to get changes that are better for them, whether it be on the farm or in the barn or even at these livestock shows across the state. Any species that are exempt from these changes?
Well, really, the main the meat producing animals, meat or food producing animals, are the main ones that will fall under these guidelines. Really, the only livestock that what we would consider the livestock that would not fall under these guidelines would be horses. Everything else would follow under these guidelines.
These are major changes that need to be communicated as we get into the heart of the county fair season here over the summer. How's that being done, and who are we communicating these messages to?
Well, they were just approved. We went through the entire process that we all talk about when there's a rule change or a code change, and we had ODA put out outreach public comment period. We went through the Common Sense Initiative Office public comment period. We went through JCAR, the Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review. All of that process is so that these rules are well vetted and everybody has their opportunity to comment on them. They went into effect on May 23rd, 2024, which is really exciting because next week starts our fair season. And I guess extension offices across the state. Certainly, that contact with the Ohio Department of Agriculture all is very important. Those changes are now in the Ohio Administrative Code, and Ohio Revised Code. So there's really lots of ways you can find out about those, about the rule changes. I just think it's really exciting for our members, whether you're a Farm Bureau member or whether you're some of the other commodities that we're really looking at trying to benefit these kids from an industry level rather than penalizing them because they may have used an approved drug and are under that FDA or Fair Ed guidelines.
You're going to see more about these new rules for livestock exhibitors in the new Our Ohio magazine coming in just a couple of weeks. And also you can find out more online at ohiofarmbureau.org. Roger High, Director of Livestock Policy with Ohio Farm Bureau, appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate it.